Hi there, my name is Matthew, I'm an Australian-based filmmaker, and I remember when the Michael Jackson biopic was supposed to come out in April 2025. Yeah, me neither. So, it's been a little while since my last MJ video. Did you miss me? In short, the Casio fiasco and posthumous MJ album scarred me so much that I needed to take a break from feature-length event sessions disguised as video essays, but thankfully, I am back now. So in my absence, I'm sure there's been a lot of new news and updates regarding Michael Jackson releases. I mean, at the start of the year, there was so much promise with the 30th anniversary of the History album, and of course, all eyes were on the officially licensed Michael Jackson biopic set to be released in April 2025. That one didn't age too well, did it? I guess I shouldn't be too surprised at this point, but in my opinion, the Michael Jackson multimedia hype train is kind of all over the place at the moment. And this is particularly due to the topic of today's video: the stilted and downright confusing promotion and production history of the Michael Jackson biopic film. The concept of a feature-length Michael Jackson biopic film has ruminated around Hollywood for decades. Not only was Michael Jackson one of, if not the most financially and culturally successful solo artists to grace recent memory, but his rags to riches storyline, as well as the conflicts the man endured throughout his life, would suit well to cinematic adaptation. There is a sense of holistic completion that would benefit a cinematic Michael Jackson story, documenting a tumultuous childhood that leads to a resilient bounce back in adulthood, with blackmail and exploitation that follows this success, ultimately culminating in an unfortunate tragic downfall. And as grisly as it is to say about a real living person, this life story is inherently cinematic. Basically, all I'm trying to say is that Michael Jackson's life was a movie, and Hollywood was seeing dollar signs. However, just because a story can be told on film doesn't mean that it should be. And going through the decades, there have been various Michael Jackson docudramas and biopic releases that range wildly in quality. But today, we're here to talk about the new officially licensed Michael Jackson biopic film, and why, at least at this stage, all hype for the film's release has basically died down, but how the Michael Jackson estate and Lionsgate Films as producers can bring it back.
Play my song, Bill. The one I like.
Yes, sir.
So, throughout the years, there have been several attempts to tell the Michael Jackson story in a cinematic format. One of the most notable efforts, the TV movie series, The Jacksons: An American Dream, tells an abridged story of Michael Jackson's upbringing, released all the way back in 1992. Which, if you think about that release date, is kind of crazy, because why are you making a biopic film about a still living 33-year-old man? The dude hadn't even released History yet. Let's pump the brakes, guys. Since then, there have been several other biopic films released in the made-for-TV sphere, with two key ones sticking out: Man in the Mirror, the Michael Jackson story, and Michael Jackson: Searching for Neverland. What I find interesting is that with each new made-for-TV movie that released surrounding the Michael Jackson story, they kind of inadvertently chronologize and chronicle Michael Jackson's life trajectory. For example, The Jacksons: An American Dream from 1992 summarizes MJ's early years on Motown and the Jackson 5's rise to success, and ends with MJ breaking off from his brothers to start a fresh, new solo career. Following on from this, we have the hilariously bad Man in the Mirror, the Michael Jackson story from 2004, that predominantly chronicles MJ's solo output and the media fiasco of the 1990s. And the less we say about that film, the better, because, yeah, it's not great.
Michael, it's me, Diana. You are going to be a big star.
Diana Ross, speaking to Michael Jackson like she Yoda.
And finally, we have Michael Jackson: Searching for Neverland, a 2017 Lifetime movie that loosely recounts MJ's final years post-Invincible through the recountings of his former bodyguards. Cool. Now, while all three of these biopic films, do what they say on the tin, they do tell an abridged story of Michael Jackson's life from A to Z. They're just not that glamorous or good, are they? Now, to be fair, I haven't seen all of The Jacksons: An American Dream, but from the aesthetics of these films, you can tell they were made on extremely cheap and stretched thin budgets. And the premature release dates of these films also mean that by design, they aren't getting the full picture of Michael Jackson's story. These biopics feel like when you put a chicken in the oven and set the timer for an hour, but then you have to take the chicken out after 30 minutes because you see a spark in the oven, which means that you have to glaze the chicken with like brown coating to disguise the fact that it's not fully cooked yet. Was that too long a metaphor? I don't know, but the fact is that this is the situation these MJ biopics have found themselves in. That is, until 2019. In November, amongst a midst of no Michael Jackson news whatsoever, sounds about right, it was announced that film producer Graham King had secured the rights to produce a biographical film about Michael Jackson. This was absolutely groundbreaking news, particularly because of King's involvement. The year prior, Graham King had produced the tremendously lucrative and highly accoladed biopic Bohemian Rhapsody, a film that recounted the triumphs and scale of Queen's rise to fame in a way that introduced new fans to the band's music, and as a result of its general appeal and high profitability, kickstarted a resurgence in the musical biopic genre. Bohemian Rhapsody would precede a number of high-profile cinematic efforts to chronicle popular and elusive artists' careers, a trend which is continuing to this day in many shapes and forms. I'm talking about the Lego Happy movie. King's involvement in the MJ biopic definitely signaled some key signs to MJ fans. Firstly, it meant that under his lead as producer, there'd be greater time and money invested into this biopic to make sure it was of a Hollywood-scale caliber of production value. But more strongly, it meant that there'd be a more conscious effort to effectively represent Michael Jackson's impact and triumphs as an innovator and performer. Let's flash forward to 2022. Where it was announced that Lionsgate would be the lead production company spearheading work on the MJ biopic. This again was an interesting move, as not only was Columbia Pictures, the producers behind the This Is It film, nowhere to be seen on the billing block, but more prominently Sony Pictures was nowhere to be seen either, which was particularly strange as Sony Music Publishing were the key proprietors of Michael Jackson's musical publishing output. So it's weird that Sony wouldn't want to monopolise both MJ's sound and visual efforts. Anyway, regardless of these negligibles, the Michael Jackson biopic finally got its director in 2023, in the form of Antoine Fuqua. Fuqua is a seasoned Hollywood director, having helmed efforts like Training Day and The Magnificent Seven, but more strongly delving into the action genre with films like Olympus Has Fallen and the Equalizer trilogy. Look, unless this dude is going to remake scenes from Moonwalker, I don't know how much action is going to be needed in the Michael Jackson biopic, but I appreciate the attempt either way. Principal photography was set to begin in mid-2023 in California, however filming was delayed in September due to the SAG-AFTRA strikes. So therefore, shooting was pushed back to the start of 2024, and this is where the train wreck that is the Michael Jackson biopic marketing rollout was set to begin. You would think in the 5 years in between when Graham King initially bought the rights to tell the Michael Jackson story and the start of shooting, he would have all his bases covered, his I's dotted and T's crossed. But now we get into...
People have no idea what's coming. Just get ready.
Are you ready to strap in, folks? Because this is where things become confusing, infuriating, and very, very delayed. So, shooting for the Michael Jackson biopic officially commences on January 22nd, 2024, after a 4-month delay due to the SAG-AFTRA strikes. Despite this delay, MJ fans were filled with hope for the film's April 2025 release date, especially since the year prior in April, while shooting was taking place, a first look at footage from the biopic was shown at that year's CinemaCon to exhibitors. This filled the general public with confidence that the production team was editing the film while shooting was taking place in order to meet this April 2025 release date. Principal photography concludes in May of 2024, and MJ fans patiently wait for the first initial trailer. We knew it was coming. Footage from the film had been publicly shown. It had been edited together. However, for month after month, no new footage came, and for month after month, MJ fans became more and more concerned about whether the film would make this April release date. We didn't hear word properly until October of 2024, when it was announced that the MJ biopic would have its release date pushed to October 2025. This delay wasn't because they wanted to reshoot scenes or because of rights issues, but because they wanted the film to be more present in the minds of awards voters and the Academy during the 2026 Film Awards season. Okay, this was a choice that was made. Graham King, I get it. You want your little Michael Jackson biopic to win all the awards, just like Bohemian Rhapsody. But wouldn't it make sense to build up anticipation for the film by showing trailers and teasers well in advance of its release date? I like a slow burn as much as the next guy, but if the candle isn't even lit, then we're kinda stuck. Come on guys, just try and make a good movie first before assuming it will win awards based on its scheduled release date. Anyway, that's fine. New release of October, we as MJ fans can wait for that. There can't be anything that impacts this release date. They've got an extra 6 months to make this film as good as it can be. There's nothing that can mess that up. Foreshadowing is a literary technique that, in January 2025, we received word that the third act of the Michael Jackson biopic would need to be reshot, due to some alleged legalities regarding disclosing the identity of a key player in the biopic story, Jordan Chandler. And believe me, we'll get into that later. It goes a bit deep. But despite these allegations being denied by Lionsgate, the film still got delayed into 2026. When in 2026? We don't know, we swear it's coming, you guys. Meanwhile, we haven't actually seen any footage from the film yet. We've only gotten 1 or 2 singular screenshots that in themselves don't really have much to go on. Meanwhile, we're hearing rumour after rumour of reshoots being planned throughout 2025. In April of that year, it was reported that the film could possibly be split into 2 parts. By June, a month of additional photography and reshoots were planned, as some media outlets reported that the film wasn't in fact being split into 2 parts, but was now transformed into a 3.5-hour singular film. Just delay after delay on the film, with Lionsgate and the Michael Jackson estate staying wildly silent on the matter, and I've lost interest in the MJ biopic. Like, I was invested back at the start of 2024 with the initial screenshots and the CinemaCon footage, but the perplexing marketing rollout and vast amount of rumours surrounding this biopic has left me, and I'm guessing hundreds of other MJ fans, just tapping out of the whole thing and losing interest. But you know what? Let's dig a little bit deeper into why this is. Why is it that the hype for the MJ movie is about as low as a song by Flo Rida, and how can they bring it back? Well,
the film panders to a very specific section of my dad's fandom that still lives in the fantasy.
I think the hype surrounding the MJ biopic has deflated not due to one major factor, but due to several individual factors all culminating together to make one big heaping, not caring sandwich. Firstly, we've got to talk about those delays, man. This film was originally slated to release in April of this year, and we know that edited footage of this film has been ready a year before that. And with each forthcoming quarter and each forthcoming delay, us MJ fans have just come to the conclusion that this film needs more time in the oven. Indefinitely. And while you could make the argument that they're trying to get it right and that more development time is always a good thing, it comes to the point where people just lose interest and move on. Remember that this film in its current form was initially conceived of in 2019. So if the film stays on track for a 2026 release date, that is 8 whole years of waiting with no tactile or visual reference to cling to. All we as the public know about the MJ biopic is that it'll chronicle key moments of his life and that it may possibly touch on the allegations. Oh, and these 2 amazing screenshots. That'll tide us over for 3 years. That's it. That's all we've had in 8 years. You know the Beatles release new material every single year, right? And that brings me to the second nail in the coffin for this film's deflated reputation, the fact that we haven't actually seen the film in action yet, despite it being less than 6 months until its planned release date. From our official sources of Lionsgate and the estate, all we have are 2 promotional images and a small handful of leaked set photos and videos, and while some sections of MJ fandom eat this up, for the general public, these aren't tangible enough to get really invested in. It would have been great if the CinemaCon footage released eventually, or if a slow drip feed of visual content came despite the delays to the film. But the constant repetition of pushing the film back and not having anything to show for it just gets frustrating and tiring after a while. Let's point to a case study here about how drip feeding content works effectively for an extremely hyped film. Let's go with Star Wars The Force Awakens. the 2015 sci-fi smash that broke several box office records and signaled a new era for the franchise under Disney's rule. I didn't say it was for the better, but you know, they did it. 2013, Disney announces that they are starting development on new Star Wars films. At the same time, they name J.J. Abrams as the director and leave it at that. They frame it like they're starting the development process there, and fans can therefore ease their expectations to not see footage for a little while. Flash forward to November of 2014. We get our first teaser trailer for the film a year before release. This means that throughout the release year of 2015, we are peppered with Force Awakens promo material, including new trailers every few months, a reinvigoration of merch sales, and general public interest resurging in the franchise. From a business standpoint, the marketing rollout of Star Wars The Force Awakens, as with many other Star Wars films for that matter, is nothing short of genius, as fans are gradually reacquainted with the franchise through drip-feeding visual content that is new. In contrast, the estate announced the Michael biopic was coming in 2019, and then left it for 5 years, and then announced the movie had finished filming and then kept delaying the film for a year and a half without showing audiences a cell of footage or allowing them to become the least bit engaged with the movie. Now, to throw the estate and Lionsgate a bit of a bone here, I know there were several extra textual factors that could have delayed or postponed this marketing rollout, namely being the COVID pandemic or the SAG-AFTRA strikes. And trust me, we all know how much the Michael Jackson estate likes to blame COVID on their lack of releasing MJ products. But come on guys, this is your big budget attempt at telling the Michael Jackson story in a Hollywood film. You fully expect this movie to gross $1 billion plus, so market it as such, damn! And this leads us to one of the key elements that is deflating marketing hype for the Michael Jackson biopic: the conflicting reports and rumors, and the behind-the-scenes drama. I'll be blunt here. It feels like the MJ estate doesn't even know what's happening with the biopic at this stage. Everything we have heard regarding the delayed production of the film, or the pushbacks to the release date, even down to what the film is going to cover, has been through unverified news sources and spec pieces, usually proliferated through Reddit or X, Twitter. It genuinely feels like no one's driving the bus, and MJ fans have no idea who or what to believe anymore. The only consistent news from Lionsgate that we've gotten about the MJ biopic is that we won't be seeing the MJ biopic for another couple of months. And this is where we get into the whole allegations debacle. Before I do though, I just want to reiterate that this is all unverified information. We as a general public do not know if the legal stipulations involving Jordan Chandler are a cause for the biopic being reshot, but we haven't heard anything from Lionsgate combating the accusation, so here we go. So we knew from the get-go that the MJ biopic was probably going to cover that topic. And honestly, it kind of should. As I've said before, there are plenty of aspects of MJ's life that do need to be scrutinized and critiqued. And I think it's admirable of the filmmakers to come onto this project with the goal of analysing the tumultuous and contested aspects of MJ's personal life. Maybe we'd get a balanced look at the facts of the matter, or showcase the media circus that skewed the truth and narrativized the whole issue. But from the outset, the filmmakers came into the film with this goal, and the film has been delayed 3 times with this current script, so you be the judge as to why we haven't seen any footage yet. Anyway, this whole allegations issue could have easily been confirmed or debunked if Lionsgate or the estate had just stepped in and said something, but no. They just moved on and delayed the film to 2026 like no one would notice. It's this lack of transparency that is the real red flag for me surrounding this film for sure. And as a result of this lack of clear, concise information, we don't even know how long this film is going to be, or whether we'll be seeing any of the allegations in the story appeal at all anymore. Just tell us, we won't be mad, we're gonna support this film either way, and we want to get excited. On top of these big tentpole items, there are plenty of other smaller reasons why hype for the biopic has died down. Like the dwindling interest in musical biopics as a film genre, and the whole Coleman Domingo Paris Jackson drama that goes way too deep and way too personal for me to comment on here, but just briefly, guys, that's Michael Jackson's daughter. Stop coming for her and listen to her album Wilted, it's really good. At the end of the day, we just want to see something anything from this movie. And God knows after I've released this video, the trailer for the MJ biopic is gonna release. Like, it's just my luck at this point. But you know what? I believe that all is not lost. I believe that as a film, the Michael Jackson biopic and its preceding marketing hype can resurrect this misinformed, delayed, ambiguity of a production back into the cinematic titan it was always meant to be. And here's how.
I would kept grabbing my crotch as a little kid, and my mom, I think I got like in trouble so much in school for just like...
Firstly, guys, just released a trailer already. The film is currently slated for April 2026. You have a little over 6 months until the release date and we still haven't seen anything. It's about time. Just give us a 20-second teaser and then slowly drip feed with full-scale trailers over Christmas time and your precious awards season. If we can see the movie, then we can get excited about the movie. And while we're at it, just be open and transparent with the general public surrounding this film's production history. By Lionsgate staying silent on stuff like the Jordan Chandler rewrites, it means that rumors and possible fabrications become our press releases and official updates. And that just takes marketing power away from Lionsgate and the estate for when they do want to advertise this film. Also, just be honest about who is and isn't involved with this movie. It's completely fine if Paris Jackson has no involvement on the Michael Jackson biopic. She doesn't have to. Don't lie and make up stories about how she was integral to the project, as it can and has blown up in their faces. Instead, it would be great to officially celebrate the people that have given their blessing for the film, instead of fabricating false alliances. If Lionsgate begins giving us consistent, tangible information about the film, then MJ fans and the general public can get excited as we're seeing the performances, we're hearing the songs, we're understanding the themes and the story. And thus, we can revel in the film's anticipation. But I also believe that building up this anticipation is not Lionsgate's sole responsibility. That's up to the MJ estate as well to do. Here we go, we're back to ragging on the Michael Jackson estate. Should I get my mini mic out again? The Michael Jackson estate needs to supplement Lionsgate's marketing through the release of their own audio-visual material. So throughout the various production delays and release date changes of 2025, various anti-MJ fans justifiably sought clarification from the estate to see if they could shed some light on the subject. And what they got in return was a minimalist paragraph saying that Lionsgate hold all the marketing responsibility for the biopic and that the estate was just as in the dark as the fans were. Just the response we were hoping for. However, another downright baffling thing they mentioned was that as a result of these delays, all future Michael Jackson multimedia projects, including a planned celebration for the 30th anniversary of the History album, were delayed indefinitely until Lionsgate dropped something. That is insane. This media blackout is exactly when the MJ estate should have been slowly drip feeding MJ content back into the public consciousness. Yes, we do have MJ the Musical touring all over the world, and that is a great way of getting audiences invested at a local level. But this is where you should be announcing super deluxe albums and live concert multimedia projects, while also, promoting the Michael Jackson biopic as the literal estate of the subject the film is portraying. This company, man, it's crazy. Now, I will give the Michael Jackson estate this. Over the past year, they have been gradually releasing AI upscaled, high-resolution versions of Michael Jackson's music videos to the MJ YouTube page. And look, while I'll always prefer a traditional video remaster where they rescan the original master footage, this will suffice as a temporary solution until such a time where that becomes financially or technically feasible. And temporarily, these videos are future-proof for the biopic's eventual widespread marketing rollout. But on top of this, we need to get Michael's music back onto the Spotify charts and playlists. Get Michael's records back onto shelves, prep unreleased and behind-the-scenes content. The estate are the company to get the Michael Jackson media machine going into overdrive, and yet they still haven't started it with around 6 months on the clock until the film's release at this stage. Let's get it moving, guys. I sincerely hope you guys come up with the goods, and if you need a baseline for how these things should be operated, look at Apple Core and the Beatles catalogue. They release super deluxe versions of their albums every year. And I think a similar system with MJ's music could work wonders ahead of the biopic's release. So, those are my opinions for how Lionsgate and the Michael Jackson estate can work together to resurrect this biopic's marketing hype. at the end of the day, we just want to see the film in action. Hear how the music is displayed and the characters are portrayed. But to not leave this video on a sour note of me complaining, I thought I'd try something a little different. I briefly wanted to touch on what I want to see from the Michael Jackson biopic and lay down my hopes and predictions ahead of the film's release date in April. Maybe October. Before 2030.
First Michael Jackson. What? Michael Jackson.
So in preparation for this video, I actually ended up watching for the first time Graham King's preceding blockbuster musical biopic, Bohemian Rhapsody. And to be honest, this movie isn't really my cup of tea. As an introductory point into the general story of Queen as a band and their general greatest hits, this movie is fine. But it's fine in the way that skimming the Queen Wikipedia page is a fine way to learn about what albums Queen made. It's not that substantive. Watching this film, it feels like we're getting a bass notes version of Queen's triumphs, but we aren't getting the emotional rationale or underlying complexity that we should be getting from first-hand recounts of these events. Don't get me wrong, a biopic should include the overall events and big moments, but why we come to these biopics is to get a deeper, more nuanced perspective into the characters and background behind their career-defining moments. Not just a recount that they did happen in history. And Bohemian Rhapsody to me is a film that does this exponentially. In the film, we just travel from year to year as Queen makes it big, falls out, and then plays at Live Aid. Yes, I know I'm generalizing here, there's more that happens in the film, but it doesn't actually explain why these events happen or their underlying significance in relation to how the characters feel about each other. I get it, a lot of people really like Bohemian Rhapsody, it's got good performances, the music's all there, that's for sure. But to me it's just so baseline and cookie cutter, like I'm not even into Queen like that. But even I can tell that this film's story is highly abridged and lazily sequenced together. And this generalized overview is something that I hope the MJ Biopic steers far away from in its execution. I understand that Michael as a film will be designed as an accessible gateway into the music of Michael Jackson, and I do think that including the big moments are paramount to his story, but at the same time, I'd really love the story to focus on Michael as a person, showcasing how his upbringing informed the person he became later in his life. In particular, I think the film should focus on his generous humanitarian side and his work as a business-savvy entrepreneur and innovator. I think these two aspects really rationalize MJ's rise to superstardom, as he recognized key gaps in music marketing and innovated modern music songwriting, production, and of course, publishing. What's more, he also realized that instead of feeling vindictive for his troubled childhood, he should aim to be better and pay it forward with kindness to children experiencing what he also went through. If the film showcases the real, tangible rationales for why people even to this day still idolize MJ and his principles, then I think the film will be strengthened as a character study as a result. That being said, it wouldn't be ideal to glaze over Michael's many controversies and questionable actions, and the film shouldn't obfuscate these areas as in the end, it will only weaken the film as a whole. Films as a storytelling medium need to have conflict and foibles for the heroes to face. And I believe that the main villain of the MJ biopic shouldn't be Evan Chandler or Tom Sneddon, but rather MJ himself. I think it would be fascinating as a film to watch Michael grapple with the impact of his fame, his insecurity surrounding his performances, and show how his trusting virtues become character flaws the more seedy people he lets into his life. If we showcase Michael's insecurity about his physical appearance or his musical ability, it informs him letting in people that tell him exactly what he wants to hear, which then comes to bite him later. As such, we gain a full picture of Michael Jackson as a person, not just a star on the Walk of Fame. And that is what musical biopics should be about in the first place, in my opinion. And look, I'm aware that this approach wouldn't be to everyone's taste, as it doesn't sugarcoat and sanitize the more tumultuous aspects of the Michael Jackson story, but I think this would provide for something a little more engaging and with more substance than, oh, here he is filming the Thriller music video. We know because the triumphant music in the background is swelling that this song will be a hit and it'll win 7 Grammys. Yeah, we don't want that. But one of the big challenges that a lot of biopics face is how to condense a 50-plus-year-old story into a 2-hour movie. On one hand, you can go down the Bohemian Rhapsody route and showcase abridged cliff notes of all the major hits. Or you can do something similar to what MJ the Musical is currently doing, framing the narrative at one point in time and then using it as a jumping off point, with bite-sized deviations to different eras while keeping the initial narrative set at that initial interval. And honestly, if I had to choose, I think I'd prefer if the MJ biopic did something similar to what MJ the Musical is doing. What I think would be really interesting would be if you frame the film in that 2006 to 2009 period, as MJ is slowly building himself back up from the 2005 trial, and then through that the audience gets taken on a journey to how MJ got to that point. Perhaps the film is framed through MJ voicing doubts as to whether the public wants to see him again, and through this we gain a deeper insight into his flaws and insecurities as well as his triumphs. And the other benefit of setting the film in this mature era period is that we get the full breadth of Michael Jackson's music catalogue at our disposal. Now of course, you're gonna need all the major hits in the biopic, it would be a crime if they weren't there. But there's one issue that I worry will lessen the impact of these songs appearing in the film. MJ the Musical exists. With the stage show, we already have theatrical renditions of these classic hits, so therefore the MJ biopic may feel as though it treads on old ground. But how do we fix this, you may ask? Well, the answer's simple. Let's emphasize the Michael Jackson deep cuts. Put some of MJ's obscure solo Motown songs on here like One Day in Your Life. Go for your Baby Be Mines and Someone Put Your Hand Outs. The fact is that MJ's back catalogue of music has gone supremely underutilized in modern estate projects. So by including these niche but equally excellent pieces, you're not only satisfying the hardcore MJ fans by giving them a case of the things I know syndrome, but you're also giving new audiences a fresh perspective on MJ's discography. I don't know, maybe I'm just holding out hope that hits like For All Time or Too Bad or Whatever Happens will make slight appearances in the biopic, but I mean come on, it wouldn't hurt to open the vault a little. And it would definitely differentiate this release from the traditional biopic formula. Plus, including songs from all eras would mean that we'd finally get some Invincible representation in an MJ estate project. Now, I do have some ethical hang-ups and red flags surrounding the biopic that I hope the filmmakers will handle tastefully. Firstly, I really hope that the biopic doesn't go down the MJ the Musical route, in that it feels like it needs to justify every single one of MJ's eccentricities. I think including aspects like MJ's vitiligo and abusive past are essential, but at the same time, it would be great to show that for 80% of the time, MJ was just a normal dude. As a character, it would be great if the filmmakers could take him off his pedestal in his day-to-day and showcase how his success was thoughtfully calculated and shaped by a level-headed, entrepreneurial person. That's a slight ick I have with a lot of these modern musical biopics. They put these artists at an untouchable godlike status and thus show that every single person they come into contact with is beneath them. And we know in MJ's case that this just wasn't true. He had a myriad of talented collaborators and friends that built up his signature sound together, so let's show them in the film. Also, and this is more of a personal note, but I'd be keen if we didn't see too many dramatic recreations of already existing MJ audio-visual works. What do I mean by this? Well, you know how in Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocket Man, how they digitally imposed the actors into the music videos and concert performances of Queen and Elton John? Yeah, I don't want that in the MJ biopic, and I can give you two reasons why. Firstly, we have these audio-visual materials already. So what am I gaining from watching someone in makeup try to recreate these attempts beat for beat while adding nothing new to the table? And secondly, these dramatic recreations just grind the pacing of the film to a halt. Let's go back to Bohemian Rhapsody. Yeah, at first the Live Aid climax is incredibly impressive and definitely gives you goosebumps with its scale, but then it just keeps going and going and going. What do you as an audience member gain from watching this? Now, of course, you can include brief moments of this in a biopic film, but try and give it a bit more thought and nuance with MJ. For example, how cool would it be to showcase events like Motown 25 or This Is It from Michael's internal perspective? We don't focus on him, but rather the impact he is imparting on the crowds or the backup dancers. And through this, we both see a new perspective on the events that we've seen before and showcase MJ's influence as a performer. And my final hope I have for the MJ biopic is that it spends a large amount of time showcasing Michael's creative process and sonic evolution. We've seen the finished products, but what we as an audience don't know is how his sound evolved and how he became influenced with so many different types of music throughout his career. I'd love to see how the discotheque and Studio 54 influenced the sounds on Off the Wall, or MJ's growing love of hip hop and New Jack Swing with the introduction of Teddy Riley in the 1990s. The Michael Jackson biopic should show how MJ worked as a perfectionist. How he and his team formulated so many different innovative sounds across several decades. And despite personal, legal and financial struggles, he was able to continue to innovate album after album as one of pop music's leading entertainers for over 40 years. That is what I want to see from the Michael Jackson biopic through and through. However, I really hope the MJ biopic is able to showcase this iconic moment. It never gets old, does it?
I will remember this forever. What's the date?
September 11, 2001.
So that was my overly long and slightly whiny rant about the MJ biopic and its very crazy production history. At the end of the day, I believe that more production work and time in the oven is beneficial for a film, as it can allow the filmmakers to work and refine their product. And hey, we might be back here next year with an absolutely fabulous Michael Jackson biopic that checks all the boxes and reinvigorates public hype for MJ and his music, but at this stage, just be transparent with us if things aren't going well. Obviously, this film has had production difficulties, and when you're dealing with someone as widely spread as Michael Jackson, this was bound to happen. And MJ fans are used to waiting long times for estate projects to release, but the fact that the film's entire marketing cycle so far has been based on Twitter rumors is just not an effective way to build hype for a film. From an official standpoint, all we have from the MJ biopic is this image. And in an age when the biopic genre is kind of on its last legs a little bit, we really need visual evidence that this film will not disappoint. The loyalty of the MJ fandom can only go so far and go through so many rumors before people start to lose interest. But despite the delays and the behind the scenes drama, as a concept, the hype is still there for me. I'm still really interested in the idea of seeing Michael's story on the big screen. I just spent several minutes discussing my own vision for the film, and from a personnel standpoint, the talent is all here to make a great film. Although it is a mild red flag that someone as high profile as Miles Teller is playing John Branca, like we don't want this to be the John Branca story, please. Regardless, 10 years down the track, what will be remembered is the MJ biopic, not its production turmoil. So, until the lights dim, and the opening credits for the Michael Jackson biopic play sometime in 2026 maybe, all we can do is remain cautiously optimistic for how the film will turn out, and whether it'll be able to effectively capture the innovation, talent, and heart of Michael Jackson. But for the love of God, can we please see a trailer?
Oh. Well, that just dated the video, didn't it?
Thanks so much for watching this video, you guys. I'm back now after making a couple of short films you didn't watch. No, I kid, I've actually been working on a very large-scale video essay project that I've wanted to make all year. It's involved me traveling across multiple states and compiling decades worth of audio-visual material, all of which is very near and dear to my heart, so I sincerely hope that you'll check that out once it's done. And after that video essay is done, I intend to return back to doing MJ and music video essays in the lead up to the MJ biopic, hopefully this year. Some ideas that I've had for a while now involve a deep dive into Invincible, MJ's most underrated project in my opinion, as well as a deep dive into some of MJ's solo Motown albums. So if you're interested in checking those out, you can always hit the subscribe button down below. Plus, I also have some different one-off video essay projects and other short films that I've been slaving over throughout this whole year, so I'll definitely drop those when I can. I've done all of this to mislead you into thinking that I'm actually a productive worker and haven't been just watching The Office for 2 months. Anyway, thank you again for watching this video and for listening to me rant and theorize about the MJ biopic, and I will see you all in the next video. See ya!